DDG episode 87. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? Are you guys in the middle of a heat wave? Again, we have to do the thing where we arbitrarily just talk about the weather and stuff. I had to lower my AC to record, and I'm feeling it.
It got hot, but we're also getting a lot of like sporadic storms with as high the humidity is. Like today,
Yeah.
I went to lunch at, I don't even remember time it was, 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Came into the store. 10 minutes later, it's like pouring, and it also, it sounds like a plane is taking off on the metal roof as heavy as pouring. I'm like, oh, good thing I wasn't outside then. So
Yeah, no, that definitely had the street flood a couple times in the last.
I think I saw
days.
like Chicago, like in the city, had like a tornado watch the other day.
Yeah, like downtown Chicago.
That doesn't happen. Like
I was at work, and I was just like, not liking this.
yeah, a couple of my Chicago friends I follow on Twitter, some people I know, we were like, this is like supposed to be in the suburbs. Like this doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
So, all right. We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. on podcast services of your choice. You can also just go to the website, digitaldaysgaming.com. You can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, where we record the show live, typically Tuesday nights, Tuesday afternoons, depending on what's going on in both of our lives and work and all that fun jazz. But Tuesdays are usually the day. Could be noon, could be 3, could be 5, could be 10, but it's on Tuesday. So please consider following us there. And if you have the ability to leave a sub, that's super helpful because we do have an affiliation with Twitch. So that's a way to help us. I keep forgetting to talk about this, but it's always in the show notes as well, is that we do have merch. So it's a Teespring store. You can check it out. Hoodies, sweatshirts. That's really all that's there right now. T-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts. So if you get any of that and you decide to order some of that, just take a picture of it, send it to us. We'll tweet it out on the main account, show you guys appreciate the support. So that's there as another thing, as well as all the other stuff where you can join and hang out in the community. So, all right. We got some things to talk about, some basic news and a bigger story. It's always nice to wait till Tuesday for that.
Oh yeah. Especially without this, I was going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of video game news for this week. The first story is one of those news stories that I just put on here. It's more for me than Dave, if anything. The next Smash Brothers character, the last character in Fighter Pack 2, is actually going to be the last character come into Smash Brothers Ultimate. Right now, there's like I didn't want to do the actual numbers.
There's a lot,
but the game launched with like 74 characters, I believe, and they've added 2 DLC packs, so it's over 80 characters. So the Tekken character just launched this week, and Sakurai.
Tekken stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, of course, it's like character stage, 40 tracks, music tracks from Tekken. It's insane the amount of effort and work they put into these expansions. But it being second to last has let speculation run wild because
where's the next Smash?
Well, yeah,
I guess who's the next fighter? So
yeah, who's the next fighter? And it's happening before December 21st of this year. So Smash Brothers, we get one every console generation. So it's going to be,
which also is going to it's going to add fuel to the fire about the Switch Pro or whatever this thing's going to be. And then if we hear about it in June around E3 time of 2022, and then a Smash game in the holidays, like it's just like it feels like some stars are aligning of whatever this new Smash Brothers is or isn't going to be.
Yeah, but it's a thing where I almost think, like, Sakurai talked many times, I think like 3 Smash Brothers before this, he was like, I'd never want to make a Smash Brothers game again, and then he keeps doing it. I don't know how they top this one, but all
also,
I know
wasn't he the one that found out he was working on it, like, from the press conference?
There was a couple instances in video game stuff. I know they happened with Nomura and Final Fantasy VII Remake, but yeah, no, I believe they announced the Smash Brothers before any work had happened on it, so it was just like, okay, I guess we're doing that sooner than I expected. So this is going to put a lot of pressure on what they end the DLC pack for, and this will probably be the last Smash Brothers for several years, just because if they do a Switch Pro, is that really enough of a platform? It being like a boosted, souped up Switch to justify doing this, and also just what do they do with the franchise after it's done? I mean, they could fix the online, which would be great, but I don't think they'll ever do that. So there's a lot of pressure on this last DLC character. They've done a really good job so far, though there's a lot of Fire Emblem characters that the community's been upset about. So will they end this with, the often rumored Master Chief? Are they going to end it with Sora? Are they going to just put Waluigi in it? Like, there's a lot of like dream characters coming, and I feel like no matter what they do,
that's going to be a
lot
letdown.
of people, yeah, it's going to be a letdown. I think right now the only way they can, the only way they can avoid a letdown is I think if they just put Sora in the game. And not just because I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan.
Yeah, I think that's like the safest bet.
Yeah, that is the one that is constantly asked for, and it trends every time Smash Brothers trends. So I think if they don't do Sora, it's going to be a letdown. And I almost feel like if they don't do, if they do a Nintendo character, it's also going to be a letdown, which is crazy because this is a Nintendo game, and there are still plenty of characters they can pull.
Just make Game Pass a fightable character.
I mean, if they add Master Chief in it, they added a Mii costume for Elder Scrolls in it, and I think there's a Doom guy helmet in it. So they got their Bethesda stuff down in Mii costumes. So maybe they technically already have Xbox representation with Banjo. So actually, yeah, they got their Xbox stuff down.
Nathan,
maybe. I was going to say, like, maybe if they talk to Sony and get, like, a PlayStation mascot in there, but I don't think that will happen either.
Just put Cole in there just to mess with people.
Yeah, no, just put Fat Princess in it. Just, like, pay Sony, like, $1,000 for the rights to Fat Princess and then throw her in there. That'll probably be enough. But yeah, no, they're going to be in a tough spot, and I'm assuming if we're getting this before December 21st, we'll probably find out around TGS time. Maybe the Game Awards, if the Game Awards isn't too close to the end of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, don't they do like this is like they dedicate a whole they would dedicate a whole direct to the last DLC, right?
They would, but they also like to include some sort of Smash Brothers news in Nintendo Directs or in big things. So if they announce a partnership with Gamescom, or if they announce some sort of partnership at TGS, I expect we would see it there.
Jeff Keighley, fightable character.
He's already in Among Us, so you might as well just add him to Smash Brothers as well. I'm looking forward to seeing this just because I want to see the craziness that happens for it. And anytime they add a character, they put so much effort into this series, or into the edition. You get the stage, you get the music tracks. So I would be fascinated with how they take care of whatever the last character is, because I feel like you have to go out with a bang, though it would be the most Nintendo thing to just be like, here's a Mario variant.
Because I'm about to say, like, Samus is already in it, right?
Yeah. Every Nintendo franchise you can think of, they're in this game,
right?
Either as like a Mii trophy, a Mii costume, or an actual character from the game. So they can only really go with like, the community wants Waluigi, but I think Waluigi has like a statue, so I don't know if they're going to do that. So they're kind of running out of Nintendo stuff, but I'm sure there's some old stuff if they really want to go retro. They definitely have like the archive to dig through.
Right.
All right. The next story made me very happy. Remedy announced a partnership with 505 Games, and they're making 2 more games in the Control universe. The first is Project Condor, and it's a 4-player PvE game set in the Control universe, which sounds like it could be really cool. Also sounds like it will probably be a Left 4 Dead clone, since Left 4 Dead games are the new hotness.
Very chaotic.
It could be. I want to see what they can do with a co-op PvE game in the Control universe. Because that game,
full disclosure, I haven't got very far in Control for whatever reason. But the stuff that I was in there was some of the environments that they built, and then just some of the mechanics that are in the game. Like, that could be potentially really, really cool. But also, I'm just not sure if it would have staying power unless the story is like really cool. And then obviously they have to handle letting you play as 2 people, or letting you play as 3, or letting you play as 4. And please, for the love of God, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but make the co-op progression just work. Please just make it work. My concern is, like, as much as I love Control, I think Control, I picked that as my game of the year the year it came out. The shooting's not great in Control.
it's serviceable. So
Right.
I would hope that they tweak the shooting enough to make it make
Yeah.
sense in a
It's
co-op
it's third person
PvE
action
game.
story game over the shoulder tolerable.
Yeah, basically, especially I haven't played it on PS5 or Series X yet, even though it was a Plus game. Um, so I wonder how that game feels in 60 frames. But definitely when I was playing it on the PS4,
Yeah.
PS4 Pro, and it was locked at 30, it was like, oh, this
Frames can
feels.
definitely frames can definitely help target acquisition and feeling for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Which I should probably, I think I have it downloaded. I should probably just mess with that, just to test how it feels. And then they quietly announced in the same press release or blog post that they did for this, saying that they are doing a sequel to Control, like a big budget sequel to Control, which I don't know if that means, hey, don't worry, we're doing something on the scale of the other game, or if they consider the first Control not big budget and they're like, hey, we have this franchise established, it's sold pretty well. Now we're gonna double down and go big on Control.
Do we know the size of Remedy Studio?
I believe they scaled up because I think they're one of the companies Tencent put money into.
Okay.
So they definitely have the ability to.
I mean, the first immediate concern is a studio that typically makes and produces one game now, potentially making and producing two simultaneously. Obviously not coming out at the same time, but assets, and people are being moved around, or you just continue to add more people, which doesn't always necessarily make for good content.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how big their studio is because they've always had like big backing. Like Control is the first time they've ever really gone.
Yeah, 505
like,
is a huge publisher. Like they're a great publisher.
Yeah,
and they're definitely giving them the cash that they need to make this deal, and they signed a multi long term deal, and it's an IP that they know. It also leads me to believe that there might be some IP attachment for 505.
it is. Yeah, because 505 is the one that kind of fucked up that Ultimate Edition stuff.
Yeah.
To where Remedy had to be like, hey, this isn't our decision.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remember where it's like, if you bought the Ultimate Edition,
yeah,
you got the free upgrade, but if you didn't, it was impossible for them to give you an upgrade. And then they accidentally gave everyone the upgrade and then took it away. Like 505 definitely has control over this IP, and Remedy wants to continue to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Tencent have a 14% ownership, it looks like, in Remedy.
Okay.
So they definitely have like the financial backing, and then 505 seems like 505's probably been looking for a big franchise for several years now, it feels like, and
since the last Control.
For like several years, I think 505 has kind of lived in that like AA space, and Control was their first time of like, oh, we can do AAA, and it could be financial like beneficial to for trying a AAA game.
I mean, I think it's cool. Like people loved Control. Again, like I didn't finish it not for any particular reason. When I started it, I think I just got distracted by something else. So I didn't have anything against it or didn't like it. I want to play it, but there's also a lot of stuff that I want to play. And just to continue that universe, I think is great.
Mm-hmm. So. And I want to see what co-op game in that universe looks like. That game goes to some crazy places, plays around with like how you move around the world a little bit with powers. Like, is everyone going to have powers? Is the world going to be as warped and weirdly built for a co-op game? How will that work in a co-op? Will it just be another Left 4 Dead clone? Did they announce this too late or too early based on all the Left 4 Dead games we're getting this year and next year?
Right.
Like where they're going to fit? I mean, I'd imagine they're just announcing this now, so this will probably come out around whenever the fuck Suicide Squad comes out on. Are we going to be burnt down on like 4-player co-op games by the time
coming off of Gotham Knights right into Suicide Squad, right into this,
Yeah, then this year we have like Left 4 Dead, and then we have Redfall next year from Xbox. So there's a lot of competition in this space, which is always hilarious when that happens. It always seems like this happens every couple years in the game industry, where it's just like people are like, "Oh, these game studios are copying each other," and it's like, no, like
they were all announced around the same time. Like,
yeah, like all these games take time to build. They just happen to announce at the same time. Like they organically sometimes just come into the same genre. Like people have been wanting the co-op thing. I think like I would probably credit like Destiny, in terms of like getting PvE stuff really popular, and then made people like reminisce about like, oh, remember Left 4 Dead? That was really fun. And then now we're getting a thing where it's just like people are kind of done with looter shooters because like Destiny did that gold standard that no one's been able to really achieve with it. So then people are like, okay, what if we just do co-op PvE and we just don't do looter shooter shit? And now like all these studios are just making basically the same game until the next thing rolls around.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next story too. But like multiplayer games in 2021 going forward, like I think that there's a bar or a standard that you need to get to, and you can't just be like, hey, we're just gonna make a multiplayer game. And it's like, okay, well, like I almost feel like seasons are kind of something that has to happen, or in some type of progression. But it'll be interesting to see. Maybe not in a PvE style only game. Or a game that doesn't have like high replay value to it, but I think that like if, and again circling back to the point, like if this 4-player co-op thing doesn't handle co-op correctly, like it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, no, exactly, and that is my biggest question with it is this: how will it handle bringing the control? Like they can't lose any of the things that make it control. You know, like how well can they transition this to where this still feels like, oh, this is a control game, and not just like, oh, they have the gun from Control.
Like, and like a horde style PvE game in the Control universe could be potentially cool. How long of a staying power does it have on it? Who knows? Depends on what kind of content they're going to put in it or continuously put in it.
Yeah, will they go the games as a service route sort of thing? Will that be successful for them? Will people just be tired of games as a service by the time this comes out? We don't know what the game industry is going to be like in 2 years or 3 years. Especially they announced this and they owe Xbox an exclusive. Crossfire X is supposed to come out this year or next year. And, you know, that's a multiplayer game. So I guess we'll find out how they can handle multiplayer. Oh, it looks like they have 250 employees according to their Wikipedia.
That's not a lot for 3 games. I forgot about Crossfire X.
yeah, I did too. I loaded up their wiki just to see if I could find the thing. But it's 250 people. They're doing Crossfire X, which looked really cool.
Right. But you're talking about like 85 people on a game? Like...
yeah, I even if you're doing like the skeleton crew thing where it's like, okay, we have 200 people on here, 25 here, 25 there.
Yeah.
It could be several years. But I guess we'll find out if they staff up or if 505 has an incubation system to where.
But signing the deal too gives them the ability because now they have the payroll. So we'll have to see over the next 6 months like what their studio size turns into. But again, just because just because you start hiring another 100 people, 150 people, doesn't they're fine now. Like no, it's like, I got to teach those people how to make Control. like
exactly, yeah. You got to onboard and all that sort of stuff, so. And then they're a company that they're located, I think mostly in Finland, and they're also a global company at this point where they have several studios and that's all sorts of thing. And something that people probably aren't thinking about. We're getting to the point in the world where people are going back to the office, and that also is going to be a long process of getting people.
You ain't going back to the office in Finland.
But you know, like in terms of like, companies can't say the next day like, all right, guys, tomorrow we're back in the office because it's going to be a long process of like negotiating.
They transition people out of the office over time before it got really bad. They're going to have to transition them back in.
Yeah, and get people used to it again.
Yeah.
Whatever equipment needs to be reset up that was taken home needs to be taken care of. And then also just negotiating with employees of being like, we know you can do your job fully from home, but we have a really big lease on this office building, so we really would like you in here. Because that's what it's going to come down to is just like companies lying to their employees being like, hey, yeah, you totally could do your job from home, but we need you here because we made financial commitments. The skee ball table that we put in a break room isn't gonna play itself. So that's Remedy. And then again, our favorite thing, the thing we talk about every couple weeks. Yeah, studio acquisition time. This one, not much of a surprise, but still one of those ones that I think I've been saying for the longest time, and you as well, of just like, when is this going to happen?
Right.
Sony has bought Housemarque. So Housemarque is officially part of the PlayStation studio family, which
About
is
time.
big. About time.
Yeah.
It's something that I've been just saying, like,
I think I
they
saw
needed to do.
some stat on Twitter today that in the last 21 or 22 years, Housemarque has made 3 games that weren't PlayStation exclusives.
Yeah, it's like Outland, an Angry Birds game, I believe is a credit to them, and I forget what the other one is. I have their
Yeah.
page.
But it's just like again, this is similar to maybe not on the grandest of scales because like Insomniac, but Sony owns Ratchet and Clank. Insomniac is the best studio to make Ratchet and Clank. Sony owns Resogun, Dead Nation, all these IPs that Housemarque's been making for them. Returnal, like they own them. So like if they want to continue to do any of this stuff, they have to go to Sony first. Sony has to want them to do it. So now it's just all right. Let's just cut out the middleman. Like enough of this.
Yeah, and this is a great acquisition for Sony because the thing that I've been complaining about when they close like Japan studio is just like who are going to make like the small games, and now Sony has a studio that if they wanted to, I don't think they're going to go back to smaller games, but if Sony wanted to make smaller games for a little bit, they have a perfect studio that can easily slide into that spot. But I think like Returnal was definitely a tryout for them in terms of like, can you guys make a big AAA sort of experience? And the answer was yes. So Sony was like, okay, cool. We now know like your floor and your ceiling.
Yeah.
And now what can more money
right
and security do for the studio?
And I don't think that this is like a stake in the ground that Returnal was like this amazing game. And it's not a bad game, but it's just like I think it met expectations for a new IP on a platform that, you know, has a significantly smaller install base than PS4, and then a relatively unique IP that, personal opinion, a punishing IP. So like in terms of like it did enough to, you know, like to maybe, or like this did enough, and then whatever they showed Sony as, hey, like this is what we would like to do next, obviously is intriguing enough to Sony. We're like, you know what? Okay, like it's time. Like you did a good enough job with making our first new IP exclusive on PS5, and obviously whatever they're starting to work on already is enough that Sony's like, okay, we need to make this happen.
Yeah, we need to support the studio. We can't let them slip away, especially now. I wonder how much they benefited from the PS5 audience being kind of exclusive starved right now, even though they're not really exclusive starved based on how many have released. But
they are for a PS5 only thingy.
Yeah, PS5 only games. I wonder how much they benefited to where Returnal's numbers were significantly higher because the fact that everything is kind of spread out from it.
I mean, we've had 3 games come out that are only playing, and Xbox again doesn't have any either, but on PlayStation 5, who's winning the hardware war right now, the hardware sales war, you've had 3 PS5 only experiences come out in as of July 1st. Hell, tentatively as of like September.
and that benefits Housemarque, but it also puts a lot of pressure on them of like if they fucked it up,
right?
And they had everything going for them, kinda. It could have been Housemarque announcing like, "Hey, we're gonna call it quits, or we're gonna go back to arcade games." Instead, they reached what they needed to reach for Returnal. They exceeded like at least my expectations for how Returnal was gonna be.
Right.
So
sure.
they took advantage of like the opportunities that were available to them, and now they have the security of PlayStation, who aren't going to rush them, who will let them just do what they have to do to make their next game, whether it's a sequel to Returnal, something in the same vein, or if they want to fuck around and let them do some like arcadey games, they totally could. I don't think they will, but like it's at least.
But to your point, like you mentioned earlier, like now maybe they can give them the payroll to where they can have a team of, I don't even know, 50 people, 70 people make Resogun 2 if they wanted to, and still have somebody work on their big AAA thing. I think another twin stick style Resogun style game, it could be amazing. You know, and a much needed genre on the PlayStation 5.
And also just to like let people at the studio just kind of like let their creative juices flow,
Mm-hmm.
basically, of just like, hey, like you're gonna make the next Returnal, but also, hey, you can make a skeleton crew that are making a smaller game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or like if they wanted to support Returnal with DLC, they could probably do that now.
Right.
And you know, there's more incentive for them to
Yeah,
do
when they
that
make
with
it run on
PlayStation.
PS4. Kidding.
Yeah, yeah. When they when they find a way to do that. Uh, but yeah, no, this was huge for Housemarque. I'm
Yeah.
happy for them. They're one of those studios that definitely they kind of
I mean, considering I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but years ago
yeah
when they came out and pretty much said like we have to change direction entirely because we don't feel that our current direction is sustainable. To then go to now be purchased. Like, you know, like there's been a couple times now that there's been some high risks for Sony and studios, and they've paid off. I mean, people forget Sony Santa Monica canceled this huge sci-fi shooter game that they had going, and they practically begged Cory Barlog to come back and to reboot God of War, and it worked. And Housemarque,
yeah
you know, came out and said, hey, like, we can't do this, and whatever battle royale they were trying to work, like, well, obviously we can't do that.
yeah. Well, because it was like after Next Machina kind of bombed.
Yeah,
Even though it reviewed really well,
just didn't
they
sell.
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came out and it was like it didn't sell. And then Matterfall was their other game that came out, and that was like their last effort of like, if this doesn't work, we're gonna have to do a fucking battle royale game.
Right.
And then they released alphas for that, and it did nothing.
Yeah.
So somehow they at least like Sony saw something in them to like give them the money to do Returnal, and then Sony was impressed enough to be like, you know what?
And to, you know, essentially let them delay it, what, 3 months, 2 months? Like,
Yeah, because there was supposed to be a launch game, right?
or around launch.
Yeah.
I thought it was February originally. So,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, I mean,
So-
amazing. Congratulations, Housemarque. Great job. I'm glad that they're financially stable now.
Yeah, to do cool things. And then the other bit of the story.
This is
So
terrible.
on so on Twitter, Herman Hulst did the thing like, "Hey, welcome Housemarque to the thing." PlayStation US, PlayStation Europe, then put an image of like the Returnal main character, you know, next to other iconic PlayStation Studio characters right now, and had the logo Housemarque. PlayStation Japan, on the other end, had the same image, but they had the Demon Souls character, and it said "Welcome Bluepoint" to the PlayStation Studio family. That tweet was quickly deleted by the PlayStation Japan account, and now it's probably likely to come in the next couple of days or a couple of weeks, depending on if stuff was finalized.
It's probably days.
Yeah, Bluepoint looks like it might have been acquired, unless someone in Sony Japan just went rogue. But
read their email upside down. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's something like the idea that like this image is the exact same
It's
image.
made. Yeah, is made and created. Like,
yeah, means it's kicking around somewhere at the Sony Japan office. So Bluepoint might be joining the PlayStation Studios group, and that is another acquisition where it just makes sense. They only make exclusive games for PlayStation. They haven't had a game kind of fail. So them joining makes perfect sense for that as well. It'll just be a matter of like, does Sony continue to let them remake games, or do they give them a shot? I think you have them do remakes.
Yeah, I think
at least
that
a couple more.
At this point in time, if this is true, this is my opinion. I tweeted this out, got some flack about this today. But if this is true, you let them finish the Last of Us remake. You let them put the finishing touches on the Last of Us remake, so that Naughty Dog can get out whatever this multiplayer game is or isn't, because it needs to come out.
Factions can't be a mystery for another year,
right?
Like it needs to just do something.
And I've seen rumors everywhere of like this is like a massive like MMO style thing, and like whatever. If Naughty Dog is being overly ambitious with this, they need to get this game out, or we need to at least start seeing what it's going to be. Or
just a confirmation that it still exists.
Yeah,
you know, because they haven't mentioned factions by name,
right? And my concern is the more and more and more I've been thinking about this is like, okay, so Factions multiplayer was fine. It was good, if not great at times. Didn't have long-term staying power. Uncharted's multiplayer, kind of the same thing. You know, somewhat, you know, long-term staying power, but not, like I mentioned earlier in the show, not what multiplayer needs to be in 2021, 2022.
Each game had like worse and worse returns in terms of their longevity. Like 2 had the longest, and then 3 was like, and then 4 was like, oh, damn, that existed.
And it doesn't appear, unless they're being like super quiet about it, which there's no way you can be in the internet nowadays. They don't have the multiplayer pedigree of bringing in people in their studio to make these games that people want to sign into every day and play. So like,
I think that's a great idea for them to do, because the work's already done enough, and Bluepoint has worked with multiple studios before to get stuff done. So they can either take it to the finish line, and it doesn't necessarily mean that all of Bluepoint needs to go all hands on deck, depending on how far along it is on Naughty Dog's end. But yeah, I think you bring Bluepoint in and you just let them basically...
Let's make it look pretty.
Yeah, make them look pretty. But then also in terms of like after they finish that, you just let them run the gamut of like PlayStation franchises that are dead until they run out.
Like, how cool would it be for them to like make it like to remake Infamous, like and release it all?
Yeah.
You know, or God forbid, like the Resistance, which I don't think it carries enough weight, like it doesn't carry enough sales weight, but or start messing with some of the Sly Cooper stuff or the Jack and Daxter stuff.
Let them do Siphon Filter. Yeah. Let them do Legends of Dragoon. Let them do White Knights Chronicles.
Right.
Like
there's a huge library they can dip into to, and what they let them Demon Souls it.
Yeah.
You know,
like let them do Resistance. Like let them do Resistance with online. Like let them go crazy.
That franchise didn't sell as well as people remember it selling, but okay.
Yeah, but I also don't think you need to put a ton of effort into like remastering the Resistance franchise.
Agreed.
In terms of like how fast, especially Bluepoint, like they produce stuff pretty fast. Yeah. If you think about it. So get them in a rhythm, help them, or let them help Naughty Dog get The Last of Us remastered out the door, and then just let them just go through all of the famous PlayStation franchise.
Like, right now, like Naughty Dog has whatever this Factions 2's thing is, The Last of Us remake. There's got to be work on Last of Us Part 3, right?
No,
the new IP.
Yeah, the new IP, and then they have a script idea for Last of Us Part 3.
So but you gotta like working on a new IP. You gotta push something off. Like otherwise they're gonna go into development hell like they did with Uncharted 4. Yeah,
and then that's when you burn people out. That's when you lose creative directors who are just like waiting for their turn.
Yep.
But yeah, this opens up Sony for like so many possibilities.
It's great bench. Great bench.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. That can a bench that can step up, you know, like Bluepoint is that perfect sixth man sort of scenario where it's just like they could just hop in there and then just do something big.
Yep. Or when something's like it just in a rough shape and where like you said, the studio's starting to get burned out on. Okay, guys, like come in here, get a fresh set of eyes. Let's clean this up. Let's get it back up. Let's get it back on target. Let's get it out.
Yeah, it's funny though. Bluepoint is already added to the wiki page for Sony Interactive Studios. But it just
the reason why I said this is terrible is because today should have been Housemarque's day.
Yeah, it definitely should have been. And now
that Bluepoint stuff seems to be more like people are like, oh, cool, they bought Housemarque, but what are they doing with Bluepoint? Like, all right, Housemarque should have had their day.
And that's the thing is like with Housemarque, we don't know what they're gonna do. Bluepoint, you can fantasy book like what they can do because they're mostly the remastered studio.
And I also don't think this is them like building the foundation for this next state of play. There's another state of play coming, but these studio acquisitions have nothing to do with it because we're not going to see like a title screen for Housemarque's next game. Like, no way. Like,
I can see if Bluepoint's doing another remaster, you can do a logo drop.
But
like, Housemarque now.
Yeah, like So
imagine if Returnal didn't exist and then Housemarque just dropped like a God of War Ragnarok trailer where it just said Returnal. Like people would be like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Yeah,
like you need to show gameplay,
right?
But Bluepoint, you can literally just throw any old IP splash screen on there and people lose their shit.
They could throw Bluepoint's logo on the screen. They could throw Last of Us remake on the screen and just walk away. And people are like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. And Bluepoint's so good at what they do, they can even throw like Killzone, and people would be like, "Oh shit, a new Killzone," even though no one would really be like, "Oh shit, a new Killzone." But because Bluepoint has kind of set themselves up with a pedigree of like the kind of games that they make and the quality they make. They can literally throw any old IP on a splash screen and people will be excited with like what the possibilities can be.
Shadow of the Colossus 2.
The remaster. But you say that, and if Bluepoint if Bluepoint says Ico remastered the way they did Shadow of Colossus, like people would lose their shit for like an Ico or Last Guardian.
Last Guardian, now at truly 30 frames.
Yeah, exactly. Hell, Bluepoint, and then it just says Agent, and then people lose their mind. Like, oh my god, it's happening. People would lose their shit. But yeah, that's it for news. Good for Housemarque and a premature good for Bluepoint. In terms of if that happens, watch something happens and like Nintendo announces they bought Bluepoint, and we're just like, what the fuck? Like how? But that's it for news.
All right, playing and watching. So, I kind of dabbled back into Destiny a little bit, just because I wanted to get on the level to do the Grandmaster content, which gets you some weapons with a couple additional stat bonuses and perks. But it's also, I enjoy playing like high level content in Destiny, so I've been kind of going back and forth. I've been jumping on Tuesdays, doing some of the story content. I think they're doing a fabulous job with the story content week over week, almost to the point where it's better than the loot loop that's in the game now, which is ironic to say that, because at the beginning of Destiny it was all about the loot loop and the story was garbage. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on there that's kind of cool. I do have a gripe that I kind of came to this conclusion this morning, and I was like, okay, this is actually genuinely annoying. So Destiny has essentially two systems in their game right now. So they have the XP system. As you level and do bounties and kill things and complete activities, you continue to grab XP. You can level from 0 to 100, unlocking a bunch of cosmetic stuff and some materials and stuff you need in the game. But also while you're doing that, you're leveling your artifact, which can give you a higher power level. It's essentially an infinite power level grind if you so choose. And then also they have the pinnacle, your gear level. As you know, they raise that 10 points through pinnacle activities where you can do that stuff. So currently the pinnacle cap in Destiny is 1320. That's the highest that you can get in terms of your physical gear score. And you can continue obviously to raise your power level based on leveling your artifact up. In order to do the Grandmaster content that I want to do, you need to be power level 1335. So you need to get your artifact to plus 15. I am like level 103 or 104. So I've done my 0 to 100 thing, and I'm only plus 14. I think that I feel this is the realization I came to today. I am base power 1320. I've done enough of the pinnacle activities and gotten enough of the gear to drop that I am the highest. The game will not drop things for me any higher. And I have completed the battle pass, season pass, whatever you want to call it, for this season. And I am not at a high enough level to do the Grandmaster content. Like I have to, weird. Yeah, I have to go back and do some bounties and do some seasonal challenges to get like another, I don't even know what it is, like 800,000 XP or something like that. Getting 800,000 XP is not going to be terribly hard. I can do some things and get it done. But I'm just annoyed that like you shortened your pinnacle power grind down to 10 because you got rid of sunsetting. I'm not going to go down. You got rid of you're trying to increase the weapon loop, and you said everything's going to be viable going forward. It's fine. That's your choice. So I hit your power cap for this season. I completed your battle pass for this season. I'm not high enough to do your end game content for this season. That's irritating.
Mm-hmm. How much longer is in the season?
Like another 6 weeks.
Oh, so, like that's unfortunate.
Right. So like I can do it. Like I mean, there's like three challenges that I can go in and I'm sure I can like shoot things while hanging upside down. And with this gun, and like that's fine. Like and if I have to do it, I'll do it. But I it's just weird. Like if I hit 100 on your battle pass, make my artifact plus 15. And then if I play your pinnacle activities and I hit your pinnacle cap, then I can do my Grandmaster content. Like I was just like, this is like, fix your system. Like, it's just weird. messing around a little bit still with Mario with Owen, but haven't just still haven't. I'm kind of out of the loop with games. I need to sit and look at something on Xbox and pick something to play. They've added some more stuff to it, to Game Pass.
Yeah, I've been meaning to dabble with some more Game Pass stuff just because I'm kind of in the same like you're in right now, especially after finishing Ratchet and Clank, where I'm just like, what's next? But yeah, no, definitely need to dabble in Game Pass stuff, or I'm still waiting for like the next PS Plus announcement and hope something big comes out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just like it has nothing to do. Again, I'm just kind of in like this rut where I just need to decide to play something. I have Luigi's Mansion 3 through GameFly. I'll probably mess around with that with Owen. I've been having some fun. He's home. He's not in school now, so he's home a little bit more often. So he's kind of on this kick where, like, the last couple months, he wasn't even like touching his Switch, which whatever, it's fine. And now all of a sudden I'll get home from work or playing softball, and he's like 9:30 at night. He's awake when he shouldn't be. And Daddy, will you play video games with me? No, go to bed. But I do enjoy playing video games with him and messing with him and seeing him hopefully get a little bit better at some of the games. But watching. I went and saw Fast 9 in the theater, obviously. That was fine. It was Sunday afternoon. It wasn't crazy crowded. We bought our tickets online, had to reserve them, but they seemed to handle it fine. It was good. It was exactly what I expected it to be. It was just kind of over the top ridiculousness with cars and explosions and stuff blowing up. Like, it was fine.
Yeah.
My daughter really loves the franchise, like really, really loves the franchise. She didn't believe me that I said there was 2 more movies, but apparently there's only 1 more movie, but it's going to be 2 parts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's going to be so there's like it's going to be kind of like the Avengers Endgame style thing.
Yeah, so then I'll launch them into space.
Yeah.
And then we're not going to know what happens until the next time.
But yeah, I don't think you'd be disappointed if you went and saw Fast 9 if you've seen the other 8 movies. So it will be interesting one day if with Cena in there, if they can get The Rock back, whatever relationship problems he has with Vin Diesel. But to have a scene with Vin Diesel, The Rock, and John Cena would be fascinating in the Fast and Furious world.
Yeah, it's like it almost, if you stand them next to each other, you can't tell which way they're morphing, but they're basically filling the same like role. Yeah. How was John Cena in it? I heard a lot of people saying he wasn't great in that role.
I don't think I don't feel like they gave him enough time or they fleshed him out well enough.
I feel like they do that with a lot of the villains. It seems like they don't have.
I want to be careful because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But I think overall he was good. But they kind of like went through some stuff pretty fast at the very beginning of the movie, to where you're kind of like thinking about a couple things like, wait, and then, I feel like they kind of do that thing that we see sometimes in video games where they reach really far back to connect the dot, and you're like, really?
Yeah. But I hope they do the thing where it's just like, yeah, we have a past, and then they just like superimpose John Cena into a scene in Fast 1 or Fast 2. If it's something like that, then I'm all for it, because that sounds stupid. It's like, oh yeah, he was always here. He was a little kid in the background.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck?
But yeah, overall, I was happy with it. Loki, it's getting super fascinating. The variant that they're chasing is like super interesting. But starting to get a little confused. Like I love the fact that I have to do this, but I hate the fact that I have to do this. Every time I finish a Disney Plus show lately, I have to go watch a YouTube video and somebody explains something that I missed that was in the background. That's like an obvious thing. So, I guess, kind of mini shout out. We watched this YouTube guy, Heavy Spoilers. He does a really good job. He's done stuff for WandaVision, for Falcon Winter Soldier, and now for Loki.
Yeah,
Still getting over this cold. So sorry.
I usually watch that stuff when the show's over or the movie's over, just because sometimes those videos predict things that I really want to happen, and I didn't think would be like a thing that would happen, and then the show doesn't do it, and then I'm just like, great, disappointed.
Right.
Was that it?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. for me. It's just I got the platinum in Ratchet and Clank just because it's once you beat the game, it's not that crazy the stuff you have to do.
Right.
So I did that. Probably took an extra like 3 hours to just like.
I've heard the shield deflect thing is annoying.
Yeah, because you have to grind that to level 5, and then you have to basically just do like the
arena.
The arena and the bar. And then you just have to hope you can pull it off. That was like the only one that took a while, and then there's like feel like they want you to do it 10 times, but how they count the 10 kills seems to be kind of like random sometimes, to where it like took way longer than it should have.
That reflected off the ground. It didn't count.
Yeah, or just like, oh, they were too close, so you killed them with the force of the shot, but not the shot itself, sort of thing, which was kind of annoying. So I took care of that. Still playing Pokemon Snap a little bit. Pokemon Snap isn't, it's Pokemon Snap. It's not a deep sort of game, so there's not really anything else to report than what happened.
Did you catch some Pokemon
last week? You don't catch Pokemon. You take photos of Pokemon, man. Yeah. It's Pokemon Snap, sir. But yeah,
hey,
so took
Pokemon Go. You catch Pokemon. You don't go anywhere. You kind of go. So you go places.
You literally go somewhere all the time. So. Yeah. But you do go somewhere. Pokemon Go and Pokemon Snap. You do snap Pokemon.
But you don't go anywhere, and you don't capture them.
No, but it's not Pokemon Go Snap. It's Pokemon Snap, Dave. I don't see your point. So still playing that. Just kind of looking for like the next game to play after I'd finished. I
guess the next thing I'm looking forward to is Kenya. In terms of a new game.
which is I think
August?
Someone said it was like 60 days away.
Yeah,
something
like
like
August
that. No,
10th.
it's September.
Oh, it's September. I thought it was August.
It might be August. Yeah, it's like 60 days. I thought someone with a countdown. Yeah, no, I believe it is August because I saw someone say 60 days or some shit. Yeah, that's probably gonna be the next big game I play, unless something pops up on Game
August
Pass,
24th.
which a lot of
August 24th.
Okay, August 24th. Just because Game Pass has added a bunch of like little games recently in between like the Yakuza games, so I'm probably gonna just start dabbling in that. Tony Hawk came out on the Switch, which I'm very tempted to pick up.
We're gonna get that really cool Space Jam game on Xbox Game Pass. Like it's gonna be a high tier game.
That's a beat 'em up. Just like okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah,
it's a huge kudos to Game Pass though, because I would never buy that game, but I will totally just mess with it for a little bit because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah. I guess I could see that. Like I'll probably download it too.
See?
Just to see. But yeah, as soon as I saw
it's more of a kudos to Game Pass than it is to the game. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's okay, cool. It's interesting marketing for Space Jam 2 weeks before the movie comes out or whatever. Good job, whatever. Like supposedly community made game. The only people that are messing with this game are people that have Game Pass. Like this game is not going to sell.
Well, I think it's going to be a free to play game. It's just Game Pass gets it early.
Oh, God,
I forget exactly
really?
how it works. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I believe it's like going to be free to play. Now I have to like look it up.
I was just like because like there's some like this huge marketing scheme with the controllers and stuff like from Xbox.
The controllers look really nice.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard to make an ugly controller with their game design lab too. So it's just like, I could have sworn it was going to be free to play.
I didn't think it was going to be free to play because if it's going to be free to play, I might not mess with it at all. But it definitely looks interesting. But it's definitely not interesting enough to even spend. Like I wouldn't spend anything on it.
Yeah, I can't tell when the game's coming. Yeah. I just know it's like it's an.
I feel like it's like July 1st.
They're calling it a Game Pass. Yeah, they're calling it a Games Pass perk.
Right.
So that's why I was just like, is it just coming early? But whatever. I'll probably download it and play it for 2 seconds and be like, this shouldn't exist, and then stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I was gonna pick up Tony Hawk on a Switch, which I hear it's a good way to play Tony Hawk, but after playing it at like 60 frames 4K on the PS5.
So on July 25th, the game will be available free to play for all fans through the Microsoft Store on Xbox.
Okay, so it's still an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay. They're just getting
so Game Pass, I think, gets it 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad.
So, looking for the next thing, Tony Hawk. I just know I'm going to be disappointed with Tony Hawk on a Switch. Mm-hmm. Like
that's why you shouldn't buy
it.
Like,
I know, yeah, exactly, yeah, and I probably just
if you want to play it on a different platform, play it on your PS5.
Yeah, but this portable Tony Hawk sounds
Sounds
fun. But
terrible.
yeah, I already know it's going to be a disappointment, even with my like mount thing that I can use an actual controller to play it. Um,
Don't do
yeah,
it.
and then
Go buy
yeah,
a
no, I'm
Subway
not. I'm
sandwich.
not. And then that, and then I'm watching Sarah play Spyro just because she wanted
Oh,
to.
cool.
After playing Ratchet and Clank, she was like, "Do we, should like let's just play Spyro." So I'm just watching her play Spyro,
Nice.
just because we're in that platformer thing,
Yep.
and it's making me want to play Sly Cooper again.
Oh boy.
But the only problem is I'd have to like use the PS3 because that's where I have the Sly collection. So probably won't
I
do
forgot that
that.
came out on PS3.
Yeah, yeah, and that would be the only way I'd want to play it at this point.
Yeah, I
But
still would want to play.
man,
I still want to play it with the DualShock 4 at least. Like, I
yeah,
don't think I can go to the DualShock 3 or whatever that was called.
yeah, you can still plug a DualShock into a PS3, so that'd be the only way I'd be able to play it. But even then, I'm just like, do I really want to go through all that? Like, I wish Sly, if Sly's on PS Now, maybe I'll finally do a PS Now trial. Though I think I did one like 6 years ago, so I probably don't have a free trial anymore.
Can you beam your Vita to your
But
PS4?
that could work. And I don't want to play the Vita one.
Well, I thought the Sly Collection was on Vita.
Is it on Vita, or is just Thieves in Time on Vita, the fourth one? Either way, I don't know. I don't want to play
too much
the Vita
stuff on
one.
this podcast.
Yeah. But that's it for me. I went to a Sox game on Friday. They lost. It was fine. Still wore my mask through most of the game just because it was just kind of weird being in a full capacity crowd. And apparently they had a bunch of issues where they just don't have staff yet for a full capacity crowd. So
Yep.
lines were kind of crazy long for that. But got to watch the Sox lose, which sucked, but it was nice to just be at a ball game. But that's it for me.
Okay. All right. Questions. You can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You want to take the first one, Michael?
Selena asks, what's one game that you really want a sequel to that hasn't been announced? I really want a Bloodborne 2.
She's saying she wants Bloodborne too.
Yeah. So is there a sequel to a game that you're really looking forward to? Or that you want that doesn't exist?
I thought I had something in my head at one point in time, but and nothing's like jumping out at me right now that I would love to see something else for. I mean, maybe if you talk a little bit, I'll think of something. I did read this question and I feel like I had an answer in my head, but then now it's gone.
Yeah. I still want, like, I'm more interested because we were talking about Blue Point earlier in a bunch of different remasters. But I wouldn't mind another Valkyria Chronicles if we're just talking pure sequels. The last one was pretty good. I don't think anything matches like the first game. I would definitely consider getting into some of the PS1 games. Like, I want a new Siphon Filter. I feel like it's been so long since there's been a Siphon Filter. There's so many cool things they could do with that. I would be interested in a Days Gone 2 still. Days Gone 1 was kind of like whatever, but I thought there was enough of a base that maybe you don't do a game with Deacon because he's fucking boring as shit. But like, I was interested enough in that world that they built and the engine that they built up that I would love to have.
I remember my answer now.
Yeah, that, and then give me a. See, I want an Infamous remaster more than I want an Infamous sequel. I'm weird. I just want like remasters of some games. Like, I want Resistance remastered. I don't want Resistance 4.
And okay, so ironically enough, I want to see the Darksiders story finished.
In which form? In full form or?
I just want to see, like, because there's obviously a story for all four horsemen. It's been written. I don't if it's asymmetrical or like like Darksiders Genesis was average, Darksiders 3 was average, but at least it's told the story of the third horseman or horse person. But the fourth one, I want to see, like, I want it like the events are supposedly taking place all at the same time. I really liked 1 and 2's storyline and how they kind of connected at the very end. I really want to see like the culmination of this story completed. Like, that's what I want. Like, I want to see like all, even if it's 75% telling the story of the fourth horseman and 25% of like, okay, now all 4 of them together, and like, now what? Like, what are they gonna do?
Would you want it to turn into a 4-player PvE game at that point?
No, I don't think so. I just kind of want to see
Okay.
what the story would be, and if it ends up being like,
I feel like that's what you get though if they come
yeah,
back to it.
I
At
guess
this
maybe
point.
again if it's 80 or 85% like playing the fourth horseman, and then who our name is completely spacing out on right now, but then the last like. I guess maybe I'd be even at this point in time I'd be content with a 20 or 30-minute cutscene at the end of like this is how it ends, and I just kind of like watch
Yeah.
like a mini show movie or whatever. Like I really like Darksiders 1 resonated with me because of like the Zelda vibes it had to it, and it was just really fun to play. Darksiders 2 kind of like turned that up just a little bit too much RPG for me. Darksiders 3 kind of just went in this old direction, and the Darksiders Genesis obviously changed to the asymmetrical view, but neither one of them fully grabbed me. But I would really like if they announced the Darksiders 4, it would 100% force me to finish 3.
Yeah, you would have to because you how far did you get in 3?
Pretty far, but at this point in time, if I go back and play it, I'd probably just start over because I probably completely forgot how to play.
Yeah, makes sense. Andy Sum 25 asks, my question for today is if either of you have tried xCloud in the browser since it's gone wide release. I did some NBA 2K21 yesterday and was impressed with how smooth it was. I haven't felt the need just because I just have my Series X, but I did use the Android app before it went wide release. The only thing that concerns me is I've had a good experience with it, but I've heard from some people they have had bad experiences with it. But I think that this comes down to internet connectivity.
Internet, hardwired, what type of speeds you have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I have not tried it on the browser either. I'm kind of in the same boat as you are. If I'm going to play an Xbox sitting at my desk right here, I'm going to play my Xbox box.
Yeah. And I haven't been at work the last like 3 days, so I haven't had like a reason to test. I know I could test it out just to test it out, but I've just been like,
That's the
I
thing.
know it works from the Android app.
Burnout, or there's a Need for Speed game. There's a guy added to Game Pass I want to check out.
Pursuit, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then we have a question from Jacob. Mario Party got an online update recently. I've tried it out and it works great. Why did it take so long to implement? I wish there were more combo co-op games local plus online. Do you know of any good ones? For the second part, I unfortunately couldn't think of any combo like playing with someone on a couch and then jumping online with games. There's not a ton of them that you can do that. I mean, like there's party games that allow you to do that. Like you could do that with like a Jackbox game. But there isn't a ton of games that come to mind that actually have that ability. I can name online co-op games left and right, but it's rare that you get the local that you can take online.
I'll say like It Takes Two, Get Out. Those are great co-op games that you can play couch co-op or online co-op.
Yeah, but combining the two is kind of difficult. Even something like Uno technically has that implementation, but it's terrible because you have to use like an app just for the person on a phone, and it doesn't work great. But yeah, I have no idea why it took so long for them to add online to Mario Party, and then they do it, and then they announce a new Mario Party that's coming out in October.
Because Nintendo hired somebody that knows how to use the internet.
Yeah, and as far as I know, Mario Party works fine. Like they found someone that can do it probably that knows what they're doing. I almost feel like they wanted to do online with the new one, but they wanted to beta test it, and they don't do public betas for things, so they're just like, let's just throw it into the old Mario Party and see what happens. And it turns out it works just fine, so now the new Mario Party will just have that feature out of the box. Hopefully. Though, it would be the most Nintendo thing for them not to have it out of the box and then just throw it on a roadmap or something, being like, oh,
it's
online is coming.
Yeah.
Which basically this like I was gonna buy Mario Party because it had this form of online added, and then they announced a new Mario Party, and I'm just like, shit. Well, I'm just gonna wait then because the old Mario Party is not gonna go on sale. It rarely ever does.
I showed Angela a trailer for Mario Golf, the Super Rush or whatever it's called, and she's like, I don't want to play that. We have everybody's golf. Let's just play that. She's like, I am not going to sit there and play golf with you and let you throw Yoshi eggs at me. That is not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that exchange, and you're just like, "There's a regular mode. you can just play the regular. Not was it Rush is the mode
or something? Yeah.
Yeah. And then final question, Chris asks, do you think there's a chance Xbox could overtake PlayStation if it keeps pumping out games on Game Pass?
What's your definition of overtake? selling more consoles? Absolutely not.
Yeah. That's where I was going with it. I don't think they
Right.
can touch Sony on this.
Making Game Pass possibly its own platform? Yeah.
Yeah, because PlayStation's not trying that.
Right.
So it's easy to take over PlayStation
right.
if you're trying to do a cloud service when PlayStation really doesn't have a cloud service.
But it's obvious that Xbox priority is not selling consoles right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to sell consoles, but it's not their number one priority.
It feels like Xbox kind of had like a come to Jesus moment where they're like, we're not gonna take PlayStation, so we're just gonna change our game plan. Like, we're not gonna beat PlayStation. Let's stop trying to beat PlayStation. Let's just focus on the Game Pass service, and then that's what they're just gonna focus on because they realize like.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be not putting words in your mouth, but instead of being Game Pass service, Game Pass platform.
Yeah, no, they'll definitely shift to that.
And then it being baked into this Windows 11 update is part of that process.
Yeah, they're playing. They basically couldn't beat Sony, so they changed games. They're just like, okay, we're in this console war. We're not winning this. All right, we're just gonna do a streaming war. Our competition's Netflix. Like, we're probably a couple years away from Phil Spencer saying something like that. Of like, we're not competing with PlayStation. We're competing with Netflix.
They 100% want. Oh, Starlink is a new game. Let me Google it really quick, and then there's an Xbox Game Pass advertisement on top of it. Like, that's their end game.
Yeah, I don't think this if Xbox ends up losing it. I mean, Xbox might make this generation competitive, but I think them making it competitive. What was the crazy number? They were like down 5-1 or something like that last generation.
Xbox One to PS4, yeah, it was like a 5-1 ratio. I think the ratio right now is like
1-3.
Yeah, 1-4. I think that like we heard like Sony's at like what 9 million PS5s.
Yeah, and Xbox just
like hovering around 4.5 to 5 between the two consoles.
Yes,
so
it's like 1-2, and I think that's the best they can hope for.
Yeah.
At this point. So they just have to focus on services. The only problem is the more they focus on a service, the more likely it's going to get expensive. So they have a fine line to balance, which is why I think they acquired all the studios.
Right. Yeah, increasing the price of Game Pass is a dangerous thing. I mean,
yeah, and we're not too far from them probably having to do that, which is why they pulled the trigger on just like acquiring a shit ton of studios. But yeah, I don't think Xbox is catching PlayStation in a hardware game. But now they're playing a different game, so it doesn't really even matter.
All right. So those are our questions. Again, you can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them to the Facebook group. You can post them to Discord. You can email us, podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. Any of those ways. The socials, you can follow us at Digital Days Pod, the main account on Twitter. Michael's is at the first MJC. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Again, all of the community links are in the show notes. You can join Facebook. You can join Discord. You can follow us on Twitter. Everything that we just talked about is linked there. The website is linked there. Teesprings is there. Patreon is there. All that stuff. We're going to get a little heavy. We waited till the end of the show to do this because there's never a way to transition out of this. So, but Michael and myself found out a couple days ago that we lost a very good friend. Started off as a colleague, turned into a friend. Andy Richardson from PS Nation has passed away suddenly. It sounds like he fell in his home. He was 33 years old. That is tremendously too young. And the world lost a really, really great person significantly too early. Rocket scientist, Eagle Scout, great writer, funny guy, just lighted up the room. And that hit really hard. Like, Michael and I have met Andy personally, not trying to be funny, but we've slept together.
Yeah. Back when we all had at E3s had to like share beds.
Yeah. So Andy is a friend. I told the story on my personal Facebook that one of my first encounters with Andy was we had met in LA and we were going out to dinner. We had taken the elevator down and he goes, shoot, I got to go back up to the room. I'm like, what's up? He goes, I got to get my windbreaker. I'm like, Andy, it's like 80 degrees outside. And he goes, Dave, I'm from Phoenix. This is like a 35-degree temperature drop. I need my jacket. and I was just like, wow.
My I can't think of Andy and not thinking about the time that we were at a PlayStation meetup. During E3, it was me, Andy, and Emra, I believe. Were you there at this point? You had to been because
Yeah, if
Andy
Andy
was
was there, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you were actually like socializing with people, and me, Andy, and Emra were just kind of like at the bar. But they were doing some like weird pub trivia thing. And Shu was there, Yoshida, and he was like doing the question things. And Andy knew the answer to the question, but he didn't want to say it because he was that like shy and a little reserved. So Emra just kept screaming at Shu, like screaming Shu's name and then screaming Andy's name right after. And Andy is like trying to get him to like stop because like Emra at this point have had too many drinks. But again, Andy is not going to do anything like to make him stop. So it's just Emra who's like probably as tall as Dave, maybe a little shorter than Dave.
Emra's a big dude, so
yeah, Emra's a big dude, so there's no way to stop him once he gets going. So it's just Andy quietly drinking his beer next to him, laughing as this big dude is just screaming his name at the top of his lungs to the fucking worldwide president of PlayStation.
The pun sunglasses.
We would have to. Sunglasses.
Yeah, like Andy always was just like super witty, always quick to comment, and it would just be funny. He always lightened up the room. Again, phenomenal writer, covered JRPGs to the best of any ability that I've seen.
If you can find the PS Nation Side Quest podcast, that's him in his zone talking about JRPGs. If you can dig up any of the E3 episodes that he was on, basically from what, like 2014 to 2018, probably 2017.
Yeah.
Those are like him in his element as well, of him just trying to crack us up in the middle of it. He would basically just like sit there waiting with the microphone for us to accidentally walk into a pun so then he can immediately call it out. So definitely if you want to know a little bit more about him, check out the side quest and check out those E3 episodes. They're super entertaining, and he's definitely a reason why, especially those would go on like 3-4 hours. So he like I think he had the same idea with me of just like, okay, we need to do something to keep the energy up. So like it was just me doing stupid shit to keep the energy up, and then him trying to call out anyone else for doing something, just to see if he can crack people. And he was really good at that. So definitely look those up if you can.
Yeah, but just condolences to his family, his anybody that knew him personally, his friends. Like it sucks. Like that's the internet day and age right now of like finding something out days after it happened or weeks after it happened. It's just bad. So, but yeah, that is our show. I'm not even going to do anything like super witty or anything at the end. So thank you guys for watching. And again, just rest in peace, Andy.
Yeah. All right, guys. See ya.